Thank you all for your attention and participation in today's educational activities. I'd like to introduce just a little bit the purpose of this program. The purpose of this program is to bring casualty care to the classroom. We would like to increase your knowledge about fire department and police department operations and how your school will look and act and feel in the situation of a mass casualty incident. Now, this is not limited to shooting. It could be stabbings, it could be bombings, tornadoes, anything where multiple people are injured. A few facts for you. The police department response has been significantly amplified since those events in Columbine. They will be rapid, they will be quick, they will be focused on eliminating the threat. They may not be focused on people that are injured in the classroom or injured in the event. The fire department response also has been amplified and quickened. That being said, during these events, there will be multiple casualties. There will be people that will be beyond saving. There will be people that are shot in the head. There will be people that are shot in the heart, that if they're going to die, will die within 5 to 10 minutes. There will be a vast number of people who are shot in other places, in the chest or in the extremities. Within the first 10 to 30 minutes, our primary cause of death in these events is from bleeding. So our focus today is to empower you and enrich you with the knowledge and tools to help stop the bleeding. There will be a varied response by the police department and the fire department depending upon your local locale. Those in Janesville will have a different response than those in Beloit, than those in Evansville. I encourage you to ask your trainers today and challenge them to answer the questions of what their specific response may look like. Remember, in these events, you are the first responder. You will be the first one on scene. You will be the first one there, able and hopefully now empowered to render aid to those wounded who desperately need it. Please, please, if nothing else, if you don't remember anything else, stop the bleeding.
I'm here to discuss law enforcement's response to a large-scale incident where violence has occurred. What law enforcement wants people to understand who may be involved in this type of incident is our main objective, which helps all the agencies involved, all the victims involved, in the most rapid amount of time, is to identify and stop the threats as rapidly as possible. Threats in those instances can be any number of things, so we train aggressively to identify as many different threat possibilities in order to overcome them so that other agencies involved in this type of response, such as the fire department, emergency medical services, or the victims on the scene, so that they can all achieve their objectives in a safe manner. So basically, when police officers get called to an incident, such as a shooting at a school or any sort of violent, large-scale incident, we will be responding rapidly and going in as aggressively as possible to locate those threats and stop them immediately. What we want those involved in those incidents to understand is that we may not have time to stop and render medical aid to a person who's injured. We may be more concerned about suspect clothing descriptions, what sort of weapons they're using, where they last were, things of that nature, so that we can go there and stop any criminal or violent acts that are occurring. This allows everybody involved in the response to achieve what they're trying to do to help those who are victims. It does no one any good to have paramedics, emergency physicians, first responders, who then become victims themselves because the threat has not been stopped. When law enforcement arrives on scene, those involved in the incident may see one uniformed officer with a high-powered rifle entering. They may see multiple officers from multiple different agencies entering at different points with different levels of force available, whether that's taser deployments, whether that's firearms, whether that's less than lethal options. All these things are things that victims may see on scene as law enforcement responds.
As law enforcement's responding to a mass casualty or mass fatality incident, several things are going to be occurring that will require time to accomplish. As law enforcement's accomplishing these goals, the urgency and need for aid to be accomplished in the classrooms is going to be paramount. While law enforcement is identifying a threat or potential threat, outside of the threat area, law enforcement is establishing an incident command post. As other entities such as medical staff, school staff, fire command, paramedic command respond, they'll be establishing a unified command at a location predetermined. As those things are set up, triage locations, casualty collection points, reunification centers, and public information offices will be established for people to respond to. As those things are going on, rooms will be cleared, and eventually students and faculty will be removed from the threat area. What we would ask is that teachers, staff, and students remain in place and shelter in place in a locked room until they're approached by law enforcement. This is the best way to keep staff and students safe until we can reach them. This may take time. This may take as much as 30 minutes before we can reach them. As we systematically move through a building and assess the dangers and finally reach those locations where there are potentially wounded students, faculty members, or citizens, there may also be fatalities. Once we reach those people, we can work on an extraction. There will be contact teams to help extract people from those locations in a systematic approach. They will be then taken to a triage location for both medical treatment and law enforcement cataloging. These things do take time and can take up to 30 minutes or more during the course of a mass casualty or mass fatality incident. This is why rendering aid in place while sheltering in place is so important.
In this demonstration, what we would like to show you is the application of a tourniquet for somebody with life-threatening bleeding to the lower extremity or the leg. The tourniquet device that we are using for this project is the SWAT-T tourniquet. It's a wide band, it's very elastic, and its application is very simple, as you can see with paramedic Moreno wrapping the device above the wound as tightly as he can. By wrapping it above the wound as tightly as he can, our goal is to stop the bleeding. Once you get to the end of the device, very simply tuck the end of the device underneath what has already been wrapped to maintain the pressure as such. The application of the tourniquet should be closer to the heart than where the wound is, and it should stop or at least significantly slow the bleeding. The instructions for this model of tourniquet are plainly printed throughout the entire side of the tourniquet. Simply take the ovals and turn them into circles and the diamonds into squares. This will be enough pressure to stop any arterial bleeding. Application of the tourniquet to the arm is done in a similar fashion as to that on the leg. The primary goal is to stop the bleeding. The tourniquet should be applied closer to the heart than where the wound is or where the bleeding is coming from. It again is wrapped tightly with the primary goal of stopping the bleeding. Once you reach the end of the roll of the tourniquet, simply tuck the tourniquet under itself to maintain pressure. As you can see, with minimal training and minimal experience, this device can be effectively placed even by a non-medical professional. Wrapping tightly around the leg, turning the ovals into circles and the diamonds into squares, Ms. Cargile is performing a very effective tourniquet application. As you can see, it only takes approximately 15 seconds to stop the bleeding and save a life.